New, fresh, progressive vanilla servers are on the way. You know what that means. Tons of people are thinking of completely ditching whatever they had going on and committing to these new servers. This pattern happens all the time. Everybody jumps ship and they bandwagon onto the new cool thing. But should you personally just leave everything else behind? I'm going to go into the pros and the cons and see what makes sense for you, help you think it out a little bit. First of all, the number one incentive to do anything in WoW are the social benefits. Most people, including me, just do whatever their friends are going to do. And what I'm about to say might surprise you, but you should absolutely do that as well. Playing WoW totally by yourself with no attachments to the game means that you're either going to make some brand new ones out of nowhere or quit very soon, and the second one's more likely. To use a real-world example, this is why I never really play Cataclysm. I personally think it's a fine expansion, and I think it'd be cool to play it someday, but every single time at the end of Wrath or whenever there's a Cata private server, all my friends either don't want to play, or they quit, or I just don't have a guild to play with, and I really just don't care enough to join a new guild or make new friends, and so I just kind of don't play, and that's kind of what everybody does by default. You know that quote, you're the sum of the people that you spend the most time with? Well, that's very true in WoW as well, so if your friends are sticking around, you might as well stay around as well, and if they all quit and go to the fresh server, then it's no fun playing by yourself when your social circle is a literal ghost town, so you should probably just jump into fresh then. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because the people that you're close to are dropping the current game mode for the new one, that you should do that too. If you still have a guild, other people to raid with, or some homies to PvP with, or whatever you personally like to do, you can still absolutely have fun with them, even if your main social circle is not going to be there. And you can even use this as an opportunity to make friends or network with people that you otherwise wouldn't, because, you know, your main group of friends is doing something else and you're still interested in this other thing. You might as well, you know, connect more with people who are still doing that thing. And I just think that's easier than meeting new people entirely. But if every single person that you know is quitting, then it's not even your decision at that point. Fresh servers or expansions or releases are actually kind of a little bit different. Even if you don't know anybody going into them, you can usually dive in and make some friends way easier than trying to make friends in an existing game mode that everybody just quit. Whether it's an unpopular retail patch or the downtime at the end of an expansion, it's just kind of harder to make friends when there's that population drop. Well, if you have people that you could play with on both sides, what else do you want to think about when you're making your choice? There's always going to be FOMO, the fear of missing out, to consider. Usually FOMO is referenced in anticipation of some event that you don't want to miss out on, but it can also be used in retrospect for, you know, not missing out on something that you're already doing. A really good example of this is Season of Mastery. This is a WoW game mode that most people, including me, quit very early on because TBC was busier and more exciting. However, a good buddy of mine played a Warlock all the way through Nax and Som, and I always kind of wondered what those raids were like, and I was always asking him about it, and he seemed to have a great time. WoW is constantly recycling mechanics and content all the time. Veteran WoW players know this, and they frequently reference older fights in order to explain and understand newly introduced mechanics. So this doesn't just apply to Season of Mastery, it applies to things like, I personally didn't play Warlords of Draenor at all, and so every single fight in that expansion, I kind of feel like I missed out because, you know, I just don't really get to experience it. Blizzard is very likely to reuse those mechanics, and I could already be more familiar with them, just like how Season of Discovery is reusing tons of Season of Mastery mechanics. I really feel like I just missed out on having that knowledge ahead of time because I didn't play Som, and I'm constantly asking people who did play Som, you know, what was it like on Som? You know, how did you guys do this? You know, what was AQ like? What was this? What was that? Whenever I could have just had that knowledge ahead of time if I just didn't quit. So that's why there's value in learning the content ahead of time, because then it'll likely be revisited in the future. But what about content that won't be recycled? Well, in my opinion, that's even more of a reason to stick around, because you'll literally never be able to experience it again, or at least not in that exact same way. This is kind of less true for Cataclysm because they could just always re-release it again, but it's more true for the War Within and Season of Discovery. If you quit just to spend more time on the fresh servers, you're going to miss out on the unique experience that those game modes are absolutely going to bring, and you might never be able to experience it again. And even in Cataclysm, I guess you missed out on having like a decked out character going into Mop Classic, which is always more fun on an expansion launch, or getting cool transmog items or mounts or things like Dragon Wrath or Fangs the Father, which I personally kind of feel bad as a rogue player that I've never actually done that quest, and you know, I'd really like to someday. However, I can't be too mad about missing out on Season of Mastery or Cataclysm because of this next thing we're going to talk about, which is opportunity cost. Realistically, what is it costing you to just keep on going? In most cases, and for me personally in Season of Discovery right now, all it costs me is like 1 night a week to raid log, which realistically is not that much, so I probably won't quit. But, you know, who knows? I might get busy or something. These values change depending on what else you have going on. If you have a million kids or, you know, a million other hobbies, or if you play a whole bunch of other games. But in general, there's this trend of people thinking that they just don't have enough time to put in the bare minimum, so they quit for fresh. And then after all the initial work is done on Fresh and they're all set up and they eventually run out of stuff to do in their raid logging, then they wish that they hadn't quit because then they have that time back again. And usually at that time, the friends that you abandoned either don't want you back, or they've replaced your raid spot or something like that, or you're massively behind on gear, and it's such an uphill battle that you'll probably just end up not coming back and you'll miss out on something that you could have enjoyed. Getting back into something is always just way harder than maintaining the habit, just like working out or eating healthy or, real life stuff. And on the topic of your guild replacing you, let's talk about reputation. And I don't mean the points that you grind in game. Remember at the start of the video whenever I said the social stuff was really, really important? Well, whenever I'm playing with somebody who is a confirmed serial fresh hype reroller and a new literally anything is announced, any new content or anything like that, or even the current content gets a little bit stale, I know that they're going to dip out as soon as possible, and whenever I'm in charge of loot, I don't give those guys anything because I know they're not going to be around as soon as like a new PoE league launches or something. You really don't want to be this guy. This guy hits fresh super hard for a little while and then he just drops and waits for the next fresh. If you're self-aware and this is personally just what you enjoy from like a casual perspective, then go ahead. But you're really missing out on digging deeper into the game and enjoying it for more than just the initial hype. The fresh hype is fun, but we know it doesn't last forever. Even these last few months of WoW being pretty boring while we waited for them to announce anything, I was still having a lot of fun playing every single day with a ton of friends. And I never would have met those friends if they just dipped out as soon as the hype died out. If you aren't quitting all the time and you have that friend group built up already, then when the next fresh comes out, guess what? You already have a network of opportunities and a squad to roll with because you didn't just waste 4 months playing League of Legends like Azimus. So all that being said, guys, take this decision with some weight and don't just do whatever you feel like doing because you might regret it in as little as a few weeks from now. WoW has always been a really casual on-off game that everyone quits from time to time, so think about what matters to you, like what kind of work and time you're going to put in and what you want to get out of the game and really what you're okay with missing out on. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Be sure to like it and don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already. Lots of you guys aren't.